headline from Calvin Watkins. Cowboys will extend Dak Prescott's contract. It's a matter of when and by how much. That is the story today in the morning news. Remember, he joined us a month ago, and I asked him a question of how certain he was that a deal would get done, and he laughed at it and said it's just a matter of time. This is absolutely going to get done. I don't really think the Cowboys have a choice until they have a horrible season and a good enough draft prospect is out there, but to continue building with Dak and trying to make the best situation out of it.
My prediction is we'll be sitting on the tennis courts in Oxnard when that announcement gets made.
Yeah.
That's
hopefully I don't want to be a distraction, and I think Dak's done a tremendous job. But
these contracts, whether it's the CeeDee Lamb, Diggs, you're going to get contract announcement when we get to Oxnard.
Yeah, my only question of how long this would take is how much of a fight is Dak's agents trying to put up? Because they put up one hell of a fight last time around. Are they going for every cent, every dollar? Are they making dang sure this is like, that's the only way I see this getting contentious. I think the Cowboys would love to get this thing done for sure. The Cowboys genuinely want him to be their guy until he's no longer can be anybody's guy.
Yeah.
It might take like a 5-year extension at $300 million, though, because you mentioned Todd France. And he's like, dude, we're going to be a year into the big TV money by the time this contract comes due. You can't make me sign a deal for 2025 that's going to be significantly less than market value by the time we get there.
I could see the Cowboys going short on this one. I could see him going short.
But would Dak and his guys agree to that?
Yes. And I'll tell you why.
They get to get back in the
game. They get back in the hunt earlier.
So we do a 2-year extension for 120?
You could do something I don't know if it's 2 years, but could you do 3 years and raise it, more than what we've talked about? And then he gets back in it depending on how things go. I could see that happen. I could see they negotiated a short contract this time around to get him more money. I could see him do it again.
I think the important thing is, the longer we go into this and you see quarterbacks that, really aren't as good as Dak going farther in the playoffs, it's just acknowledging that Dak is by far good enough to win a Super Bowl. If you just give him, I think, is it 2 more good players? Give me a dominant offensive lineman and a reliable playmaker. They might have already gotten the reliable playmaker. Give me the dominant offensive lineman to go along with this defense, and bingo, I think you have it. Maybe you would have had it last year if Anthony Brown and Terrence Steele stay healthy. This and once Dak, could get there, maybe they say, well, you hadn't won the big one, right? You got to go all the way and actually win it, and the AFC is too much. So maybe there is no late Dirk career nirvana on the other side of all this angst. That's what we need to unite Cowboy Nation, is one of these quarterbacks to actually win a Super Bowl and retire the conversation so we can enjoy it, right? And know with certainty.
I think the players is a big thing, but I also think the guy on the sideline that's there to help him out is a big one.
Oh, you're right about that.
He's had Jason Garrett, he's had Scott Linehan, and he's had Kellen Moore. These are the guys that have been helping him, and now he's got Schottenheimer. I'm not bullish on those prospects, but maybe you have a guy in Schottenheimer who had a bit of a Dan Quinn look in the mirror and say, okay, I can't continue to do the things that I've done all these years. The sport has changed, and maybe you see an evolved Schottenheimer the same way we got an evolved Dan Quinn, which I was not expecting, so I will hold that out. But I think that, Pat Mahomes has Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like what the Eagles had with their offensive staff was pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
We know that great quarterbacks usually, especially the ones that are doing a ton of winning, there's usually an offensive guy on the sideline that's helping them out. And I don't know that Dak's really had that.
I think your dead ball is on. I think the quarterback and coach combination is the most powerful dynamic in sports. And I don't think Patrick Mahomes would be having this much success if it wasn't for having a coach like an Andy Reid and an Eric Bieniemy helping him along the way. I don't think Tom Brady does what he does without Belichick. Drew Brees without Sean Payton. His career with the Chargers was impressive at times, but disappointing at others. I think every time you find a great quarterback reaching the heights of the sport multiple times, it's because a guy like Jimmy Johnson or Bill Walsh is there.
Or just give me the one sample size. Okay, Matt Ryan made a Super Bowl. He had Kyle Shanahan. What do you do without Kyle Shanahan the rest of the time? He definitely wasn't an MVP and playing in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Brock Purdy's playing in an NFC Championship game, and there's plenty to do with the talent he's playing with, which is a huge factor for sure. But also the guy that's the maestro behind it all. That matters.
And, you know, and then right at the heart of that is, because what Shanahan has done since Ryan is win it with lower paid quarterbacks, or win the NFC with lower paid quarterbacks, or whatever it takes. And is Dak good enough to be one of those quarterbacks that's taking a huge percentage of your cap and still allowing you to team build enough to win it all? And, you know, I think a lot of us, looking at the text right now, a lot of people wish the Cowboys would go try the Shanahan way of, hey, these quarterback salaries have gotten so huge, and we're talking about $60 million for Dak, which will be 25% of the cap for one player. And you have Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts going. I think Dak's better than both those guys. You know, at what point, you know, should the Cowboys look at it and say, guys, what are we doing? Who are the quarterbacks that match this profile that are getting there? It's quarterbacks who are much less what Dak is. Nick Foles, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, who are, you know, finding themselves in these biggest of games. And I think maybe I think what happens is teams fall in love with the idea of, hey, we have a franchise quarterback. There's a lot of benefits that come along with that. There's a lot of stability that comes along with that. But when it comes to just the bottom line of, is it getting you closer to a championship, I still don't think we're there. All righty. New Cowboys wide receiver Brandin Cooks did a podcast talking about Stephon Gilmore. Just press play. He's still playing at the highest level. I think it's going to be huge for him and Diggs to pair up together. Cooks said he reached out to CeeDee Lamb. I'm coming to just help. There's no ego. And the same thing with Michael Gallup. That sounds like the veteran leader this wide receiver room could need in every way, Brian.
Absolutely. And I think the Cowboys, they're going to benefit from both him and Gilmore being a part of this. And the fact that they didn't have to add any more money, the fact that they got Cooks, you know, really the Texans to have to take care of Cooks' contract. You know, Cooks has been a super productive player no matter where he's been. You know, he's one of those guys you wonder, well, why? You know, he's kind of the Mickey Spagnuolo. Well, why does he keep getting traded? You know, but he's kind of a half glass full guy. He's like, well, people keep wanting me. So, you know, he's looking at it as a very positive thing being here in Dallas. And, you know, he's one of those guys. I mean, when you start to talk about taking the tops off the defense, this guy can go do that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And these are the type of things that when you are paying your quarterback, you got to be savvy team builders. And so going and finding two guys like this, like, it's an excuse to say we've paid our quarterback and now, we gotta have to shrug our shoulders at the way we team build. He's going to count as like he's making as much as like 5 starters, so we can't get those 5 starters anymore. There is always a way, and sometimes you money whip it and you just say bleep the future for a couple of years, and sometimes you get super savvy and you say, where can I go find a Stephon Gilmore for pennies on the dollar? Same thing with Brandin Cooks.
If I could circle back, Gavin, you know, you were mentioning, when do you think the Cowboys, you know, with Dak and that whole situation, I thought before he signed the contract extension, when they were tagging him and all that, and
they were getting close to it.
Yeah, I mean, it was getting to the point like, here's an organization that the general manager is not going to go anywhere, and so you don't have to worry about getting fired. You know, I felt like the Cowboys were going to be the first team that was not going to pay a quarterback, but it looks like to me what's going on with the Ravens. The Ravens seem to be the team now that are the ones that are like, okay, fine.
They've been forward thinking for a long time.
Yeah.
The Ravens
I thought the Cowboys 3-4 years ago were going to be that team.
Yeah, because the reason you don't let a quarterback go if you're the GM is because you're signing up for 3 or 4 years of losing, and that's going to get you fired.
That's going to get you fired.
If you own the team, you're like, yeah, but that's our plan. We're not firing ourselves.
Yeah, and you get to a point, too, where, like, we're starting to see a lot of quarterbacks become available.
Yeah.
This is unprecedented when it comes to quarterbacks you can go get. You go to Jimmy Garoppolo, who's won damn near 40 games for what, $35 million?
And he's been to the Super Bowl. I don't know why you got to pay an extra $25 million for a few passer rating points. It's just there's some real inefficiencies going on in the quarterback market, Chief.
Yeah, I think that you can say, okay, we can go small money on the quarterback. Let's go find the next Brock Purdy. But the point is you have to have the guy on the sideline that can make do with him.
There's no question about that.
It's not just, hey, we got the 7th round pick and we can do it this way. No, only a certain amount of coaches can do that. Yeah. You can almost count, like, how many star quarterbacks are in the NFL? Okay, how many star Jedi offensive minds are there in the NFL? You got Shanahan, you got McSex, you got Reed. And then, like, where else? That's it.
Yeah. I think the guy at Cincinnati's coming along.
The guy at Cincinnati, maybe, but he's also got he's got a Jedi quarterback.
Well, I think that he takes advantage of having a Jedi quarterback and a Jedi wide receiver, though, too.
Yeah, that helps a ton.
And the running game, too.
Give Zach Taylor, Brock Purdy, and
Yeah.
watch how many Super Bowls they don't win or don't even sniff.
Well,
Like, there's just very little of these super ultra-talented quarterbacks or super ultra-talented offensive minds. Everybody's like, yeah, just do what the text is lighting up. Do what the Niners are doing with, okay, dude, you think Schottenheimer is getting that out of Purdy?
I think he could with a great offensive line, and good yak players.
I think a great offensive line and great yak players.
Which is what the Niners have. Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, they I don't know if they got a great offensive line. They got a good offensive line. The Eagles had a great offensive line.
Yeah.
The Eagles had a great offensive line, and so you could get by with less ingenuity from an offensive mind standpoint. If you're going to say, okay, you're going to give me the 7th round quarterback because you're going to go build the best offensive line in the sport, and you're going to give them 2 number 1 wide receivers and a top 3 tight end, then okay, maybe you don't have to be a super football offensive genius like a Shanahan or a McSex. But otherwise, good offensive line, good skill positions around them, and just a good offensive mind ain't getting it done with a Purdy.
No, I think you can make a coach look awful brilliant with great team building, though. And whether that's through salary cap management or drafting, I would say the job Les Snead did stacking those rosters. Like McVay couldn't keep him in the playoffs. It was big all-in moves, and then the genius couldn't even get you over 500, right? With Shanahan, it's been up and down, but the way they stack that defense, and getting the kind of players that complement Shanahan's offense so well, I think allows him to have more success than
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I think it all matters, but you have to. I think you have to have 2 of the 3. Coach, quarterback, great team builder. And if you can combine all of the 3, then you're looking at really something special. Massive draft thing an old buddy of ours put together here for you, Brian. I want to get your thoughts on this. We all know Dalton Miller.
Yes.
Yeah, great guys. He's still in Portugal.
He is in Portugal.
And he's working his ass off on the draft as always.
He does.
He asked, when was the last time a first-round tight end was a legitimate stud in their first contract? Pitts might be, but it's still early.
Yeah.
What's the answer? 2006, Vernon Davis says, let someone else draft them early. Wow. That's pretty compelling data there. 16 years. Only Kyle Pitts was a transcendent star at tight end in his rookie contract. Does that change your view at 26 relative to tight end at all, Brian?
No, to me, because I feel like, though, as we look from 2006 to where we are today, the tight end has become a different position. It's become more of a weapon position. And I feel like, though, to me, that Pitts was one of the best players I scouted. When you watched him play at, Florida,
I remember you saying that a couple of times.
He was incredible. But I think the position of tight end of all over these years since 2006, I think we've seen a different, I'm trying to look for the right word about it, but a different importance. That, if you have these guys and now I think coordinators are now taking better advantages of using these tight ends. So maybe if you go back to 2006 and look at all the guys that were drafted since, I think the development of the tight end now kind of makes it like we'll see more tight ends that are picked early be able to be these guys that
actually pan out.
I just don't think it's the same from 2006 to today. I think the tight end, I mean, we've seen it. You look at the Kelseys and the guys like that.
All the best tight ends that you see in the league now.
Philadelphia, Zach Ertz, those kind of guys. I mean, we've seen.
Yeah. And it's all been mostly like second, third round
kind
of picks.
We haven't seen. This is unusual that we'll have a draft with this many first round tight ends potentially.
Yeah, it's like scouts are, still can't get quarterback figured out, and maybe tight end's the second biggest mystery.
Yeah, it does kind of seem that way, and so that's the biggest argument against drafting a tight end that I'm seeing from like Cowboys fans and just media people.
You can't tell who's good.
Yeah, it's just that history shows you that the evaluation of the tight end is not that easy. Now, when you do find that unicorn tight end, wherever it is you found him, you've now created one of the single biggest advantages in the entire sport.
Yeah.
But it's not as safe as, hey, at 26, I could draft a left guard and know for sure this thing's not going to bust on me. But the tight end could do that. Apologies.
Preferably.
Yeah.
Usually not a
There's
attractive human.
Sorry, I mean to jump in.
Hey, yo!
Sorry. All right. Just fleshing it out a little.
You know, I think what's happened too is we used to put such a premium on blocking with the tight ends. It's not as important now.
For sure.
It's not. I mean, if you give me a tight end that could be a mismatch player that I could flex, put out wide, I'll give up the blocking. I'll give it up. I'll figure out another way to make up for that. But I think for so many of those years, we're like, well, this guy's a good catcher, but he's a bad blocker. So you don't get a guy getting drafted that way. You know, all of a sudden it's like, you should draft these tight ends now as weapons, is what you draft them as.